Welcome, everyone. This is the Charmed Life podcast, live multi-streaming. You may be finding us on YouTube. You could find us on Facebook, on Twitter. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr, and I am, what am I? I am a transpersonal hypnotherapist. I'm a guide and coach. I'm an intuitive and a channel and an animal communicator. And kind of through and above and throughout all of that, I'm a teacher. I love to teach and provide guidance. So I work one-on-one and I work in group containers. So you can check out my work. Show notes will provide all of that for you. If you're new here, welcome. And I want to let you know that we do have an audio version of this that will be posted, eventually. And that on that, I actually add a little extra teaching, a little extra something that has to do with the whatever we had that day, whether it's a solo episode or if I have an amazing guest, which I do today. And before I bring on my guest, I just want to share a couple of things with you because I'm so very excited about them. I have two incredibly beautiful and actually highly affordable programs that are live right now. Now, they are live in the sense that they are available for you to start. The content is available. And then there is another live component for you, literally two live meetings in each of these programs, which are bonus. These are, I just wanted to get together with the people who are taking these programs. First, I want to share this is in easy intuition and meditation. This is a 30-day journey packed with so much value, tons of meditations that you will absolutely love, as well as lessons that are also meditative and contemplative to connect you authentically to your intuition and to help you to fall in love or upgrade your love with your meditation practice. The lessons include divination and human design and other things like self-care, self-journaling, and all kinds of wonderful things. Like I said, it's just so beautiful. And that's not a brag. That has to do with the inspiration of everyone who joins it. So I want to give you that. The live meetings are starting in August, but you can start your journey today. And then the other one is Empowered Empath. And this also has 8 powerful lessons and meditations, hypnotic journeys to help to attune your energy to flow with your sensitivity in an empowered, guided strength from within, especially really helpful for people who have the open emotional solar plexus in your human design chart. So check the show notes for that. But I don't want to wait any longer to welcome on my amazing guest. She's been on the podcast one time before, but we haven't. Not since I started doing this live on the multi-stream again. She is a human design guide and teacher, and her name is Erin Claire Jones. Welcome, Erin. Oh, you're muted. Is it on my side?
That was my
There
side. Thank
Okay.
you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, so nice to see you again. I just enjoy your beautiful projector energy so much, and just everything that you bring, all the wisdom and clarity. And even in the experiment of human design, we get to these points where we don't feel clarity because we want to use our intellect on it to try to learn it. And I feel like that happens in the experiment no matter what. But you bring this frequency of just clarity and calm about it. So I appreciate that so much.
Thanks for saying that.
Would you like to tell folks, in case they didn't hear the previous podcast, just about your journey and the work that you're doing for the 9-centered beings on our planet?
Yes. So my name is Erin, and I work with human design. And I think that my goal with human design is just to make it as accessible and practical and useful as it can be. I think there are so many amazing tools out there, but I think what is so useful about human design is how we can actually implement all these tools, implement tools from all the knowledge that it gives us. And so my goal is to really make it accessible to a more mainstream audience. Mm-hmm. I've been working with human design since 2015, so for about 8 years now. Discovered it very serendipitously from a stranger, my first teacher, who invited me into it and told me I was meant to do it. And I believed him. And it's been, and I'm glad I did. But Yeah, but it's been an amazing journey. I think the first few years sharing human design were hard because it was
Mm,
just so new, and it felt like
mhm.
I was so in my freaky genius part of my design, but not in a way where it felt like I was actually being invited in to share it. So
Mm,
it's been really amazing to watch it grow and to watch the awareness and excitement around the system grow, because I think human design can be so transformative in so many parts
yeah.
of our lives. And so it's amazing to see it really taking hold.
Oh, I so agree, and so I was initiated into it in, April of 2019, so really, I mean, 4 years, but, like, when I that first year, there's something that happened, I guess, in 2020, I'm thinking about it, that it just started to, like, pop off. I mean, everyone
Yes.
comes on my podcast now as a guest, whereas then I was like, "Have you heard of human design?" I'm like, "No, what's that?" Now I can just assume someone's coming on my
So
podcast
wild.
because and they're like, "Oh, yeah," and even if they don't know a lot about it, they still know their profile and or their type and have heard of it,
Yes.
and I found it to be so my husband, he's not a I mean, he has a spiritual practice and he is a spiritual person, but he's not like me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, we tend to polarize very practical and he, he's just like, "It just has to prove itself really wrong to me because it just keeps being helpful for myself and what I notice about others." And it's just,
Mm,
to have that kind of someone who is really looking for something more empirical, and
yeah,
that's what it provides for us because it is an
yeah,
experiment. It isn't a faith. It isn't a belief system. It isn't, but it's a contemplation, which I think is beautiful because it takes us to inside.
yes. I love that, and I feel like I've worked with many people that are very skeptical, but they're like, "But, like, the only reason you would know this is because you've been
Mhm.
following me around for 3 years." So, like, they're like, "I don't wanna believe it, but just keep telling me more." So, I remind people, like, if it's useful, take it, if it's not, let it go, but I do
Yeah.
think similar to what's happening with your partner, it's just like it's freakishly accurate and
Yeah.
very specific, even if we
Yeah.
don't really wanna believe it.
Right. But it's like it's nature is the way I see it, and it's so complete. Like I've been interested in astrology. I'm not an astrologer by any stretch, but my whole life, like I remember when I was a teenager, I loved, astrology, the mystery of it and how it seemed to reveal things about us. But since human design is a synthesis of four ancient observational sciences, including astrology, and then a new science, quantum physics, it's so the synthesis of that is so complete, and it's to me, I think it's really interesting that it all kind of aligned with also, like, us opening the genome and, these different awarenesses that we can we can just bring into our awareness collectively, but it makes sense. It's like if a flower grows in the garden, that if with certain amount of tools, we can understand why and how it grew in that garden and that imprint, and that's just we're not much different. Just because Pluto is that far away doesn't mean that it doesn't have an impact on our growth and our imprint. I would say,
Mhm. Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, but yes.
So we thought we might talk about something that's very interesting that human design shows us, and that is this 2027. I mean, it's actually a prophecy in one manner of speaking. In another manner of speaking, it's just an astrological and cosmological unfolding. It's just again a cycle. It's just nature, just
Yeah.
how things are. It's an age, and that again is something that is not just in mysticism or metaphysics. We can look in our history and we go through these different ages. And so, would you like to tell us about what is happening in 2027?
Yeah, I think well, the short answer is we don't know, which I know
Yeah,
we talked about. I think that I think with all systems, like it all depends on where you're learning it and learning it from. But I think people can get a little bit freaked out about what's
yeah.
coming. And I think, with 2027, the idea is that we're just transitioning into a new age, a new way of doing things. So
Mhm.
we're kind of moving out of an age of like institutions. This is called the cross of planning. It's around institutions and kind of like all this community. And we're in a more kind of very strategic, mental, logical energy into a much more individual, self empowered, entrepreneurial, self trust kind of energy, where it's like we might see some institutions break down and we might kind of see a lot of smaller things pop up. And I think, my understanding of this transition is that it is just reminds us and reinforces the importance of really tuning into our designs and operating as ourselves, whether human designs our system or not. But it's really
Yeah.
around trusting ourselves, and I saw this a lot in 2020, honestly. I
Right.
feel like people just became a lot less tolerant to like old ways of doing things for them, where they might have been in a job they really didn't enjoy. And they're just like, oh, this is not right for me. Like, what is right for me? Like, I'm ready to like learn that and discover that. And so it's really about kind of moving into a more independent, self-empowered way of operating and really connecting to ourselves to do that. And for people that have 6-2s in their profile, they're really meant to be very powerful guides in this phase. Sometimes part
Mm.
of being a 6-2 is that we can feel like a little bit alien and feel like we kind of see things, but we're like, people don't see them differently. But I think that this new era might feel a more home-like, more comfortable to them, which is just interesting, and we'll see how it manifests. But I'm so curious about your perspective because, so much of the magic of being a reflector is that you just see, sense, and feel things that so few people do. And
Oh.
there's an ability to really evaluate what's happening and where things are progressing and where things are blocked. So I'm curious, in your observation of where we are, like, what do you see as the changes?
You're so sweet to to ask me. Well, I actually just so funny that I got full body chills because I realized, yeah, there was this thing. It like started to power up in our awareness even more exponentially so in 2020. Of course,
Yeah.
that's when we had the pandemic and the shutdown and everything. And then even like, they called it the big quit or the big resignation
Oh,
because people
yeah.
didn't want to go back to work because they're
Yeah.
like, this sucks. And I'm like healthier and happier, now that I'm not going into that box. But I just realized this, Erin. Look, 2027 from 2020, that's 7 years. And that's the general rule for
Wow.
deconditioning.
Yeah. So true.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild. I hadn't realized that.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize it till right now either.
Hmm.
So if we're in this awareness where we're deconditioning, and that's why it's felt so fast lately, I think.
Hmm.
There people have been saying there's a great awakening, even before then, but there's been a momentum, and it seems to be doubling and doubling of awareness is opening and personal and individual awakenings. And then that is just coming into it's about the personal and individual, right?
Yeah.
It's about the autonomy. And it's just adding to this, maybe that 100th monkey kind of thing, where the 100th monkey takes on a new habit, takes on a new energy, and then it's just made a complete change in the entire society.
Hmm.
So, but what I see, I mean, there are other things that I'm seeing are just major indicators, AI coming into our, daily life in such a powerful way. Also, there's probably still some shifts that are showing up with us changing from the way that we are on the internet to more of a metaverse model. But then, and the opportunity with that was, but probably will be missed to some large degree, for us to become decentralized of certain commercial agencies. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
right now, the internet isn't really decentralized. It's Google. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's how we access almost everything. And then, some other big players in that. But, Meta will build their own metaverse, and probably Bezos will build his own metaverse. And then the opportunity was for it to be fresh though. And maybe that will
Hmm.
still, maybe we'll work that a little bit better. But decentralization. And what I mean by that is think of the old church model. Or it's not old, it's still in play. But what makes a religion or a church, one of the main components is a centralization. So that means there is a central authority, there's a central conference or a central leader, and a central doctrine and tenets of faith. So if there's something that is like this is the authority outside of you, and this is, then you make yourself come to it.
Hmm.
And so I think that's generally what is breaking down. I think religion is, again, probably not going to we won't see the big effects of this for 50 to 100 years. But religion as a spiritual technology is being shown more and more as outdated. And because we've moved past the information age, and we're now in what I see as the consciousness age. That means that our consciousness is the greatest asset that we have, and also the greatest potential commodity. by those agencies of commercialism that would want to, you know, make money off of us the way that they made money off of our data, you know.
Mhm.
And so that's where we are now. But I also see this as, I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I see a lot of indications and I feel the energy of us being able to have open contact with extraterrestrials who are here, and the governments and government is becoming more increasingly incapable of concealing the information that we already have, and that they are
Mhm.
here with us, and that they are benevolent, and they are because they are more advanced. If they could be here and come to us, and they want to help us, and they want to be friends to us, and so that being able to become open on in awareness, that's going to shake people's paradigms and decentralize the individual and have them have to come to their own, come
Yeah.
to Jesus inside. And
Mhm.
so just that, all of that will, it will kind of again quicken us in technology, both spiritual and literally, other technologies. And it's just going to empower us all and kind of raise the playing field of the way that we exist in so many ways. And the potential for that I see in 20 years after 2020, so 2047-ish, is that we can start to really heal this planet in a significant way, because our climate crisis is no joke. So
Mhm.
I, those potentials, of course, we don't know. But then, all of the other amazing things that could happen with the new children coming on the earth. Well, think about that. The new children will be in their 20s. They'll be adults in
Yeah.
2047. So
Yes.
talk about the new
Totally.
children.
I mean, again, it's like we don't totally know, but I do
Yeah.
feel like there's this sense that like the children will be, we're kind of moving again from this more like mental awareness to a more emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
This new kind of emotional awareness and empathic nature and very sensitive to touch and very sensitive beings. And so
Yeah.
it'll just be really interesting to kind of see who these kids are,
Yeah.
you know? And I feel like I don't know because I don't know what babies were like 20 years ago. Like I didn't experience that, but it's just like, as somebody that who is a mom, a new mom, and like is around a lot of kids, like, I mean, they're just amazing. And maybe this is just true of babies, but it is like, it does feel like they're so deeply connected and so
Oh,
deeply
yeah.
aware. And like, and so, what I'm noticing with my daughter is just like, she's just so conscious of everybody and
Mhm.
like, and is so attuned to each of them. And so, I don't know. I think I'm curious to see, but I
Mhm.
do think we are moving out of a more kind of mental, logical survival awareness into a much more empathic,
Mhm.
aware, attuned one. And I'm curious to see how that actually manifests in kids.
I wonder if they'll just be they'll develop a mental construct, which is, we're not born with a mental construct. It's a clean slate. And
Yeah.
we develop our intelligence and our mental body by experience, by, the outside world presenting us things, and we make a known associations, what we call it in hypnotherapy, a known association. We create a belief, or we create an understanding about that. And then that starts to become our logic, reasoning, analysis, willpower, and decision making.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that will be that will be online, but it just won't be as important. It will be maybe equal or something like that, or it'll be used as the passenger instead of the driver as much as it is
Totally.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important reminder because I think, whatever our design is, none of us are really meant to make decisions from our mind,
Mhm.
but it's when I share that with people, it's not because the mind is not valuable.
No, we
It's just
need it.
because
Yeah.
we need it
Yeah.
desperately. It's
Yeah.
just around
Yeah.
knowing how to use it and knowing that it's often not the most reliable tool to assess opportunities for us because we can convince ourselves in or out of anything. And
Mhm.
there's a deeper, clear authority within us that we can really trust. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I wonder if it's a more healthy kind of relationship to that.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. And the thing
Yeah.
is, as really being we're both very interested in the mechanics of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I love to see the mechanics of it because it's brilliant. It's how well the neutrino field is imprinting us. And I have been wondering, I mean, are we going to get a new design type? Of course, we won't know until someone has the
Mm,
revelation.
yeah.
But the way we got projectors, and what was that, 1731? I always forget the date
Yeah.
when Uranus
I don't
came on
I don't
to
remember
our
the exact
awareness.
year.
17 some
It
31,
was
I think.
1700s for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when we got projectors, because when we collectively became aware of Uranus, then we
Yeah.
could receive its imprint or guidance, or, just like how human design came online well after we were aware of quantum physics.
Yeah.
So anyway, projectors came online then, or that we got a new design type. So I've just been wondering about that. Of course,
Mm,
I haven't seen that prophesied by anyone. We're having a solar plexus upgrade,
Right.
Are we going to, I mean, we'll have to see.
We'll have to see, but I love that curiosity because I do feel like
Mhm.
there's a lot of, I don't know, space for evolution. And even you
Yeah.
look at the Gene Keys, and kind of like
God,
how
so good.
Richard Rudd was one of the first students of human design and like really kind of went and evolved this whole new
Yeah.
thing. And so, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of space always for evolution. And even like, I'm so grateful for all the knowledge that Ra, the founder of human design, brought through. But I watched in the past 4 years for people to really, and including me,
Mhm.
translate all that stuff in ways that I think make it accessible to a much broader audience. And so I guess I'm just curious of like what the continued translation is and the continued understanding. And yeah, if there are more revelations, yeah,
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
cool that the revelations, again, to make it practical, they've come with things that are practical, quantum physics being,
Totally.
birthed. And then 80 years later, or something like that, that's when we were ready for Ra to bring through, to channel the human design system. And, Uranus, that's when the projectors, but of course we didn't know and then we didn't understand the types because human design wasn't online. But it's all like these different shifts come with something that is actually historically,
Yeah.
we can look at. So that's probably, again, with the 2027 shift. Well, we have a lot more information and a lot more conscious awareness. We're able to operate more freely with the principle of non-locality, which is all points in time and space are related, and aren't, subject to the time and space constraints. So I there's a to me, I feel like while our pattern has been about 100 years after some major shift or advancement, that it's actually more ubiquitous
Hmm.
in our human race. And then with quantum physics to human design, if we take that measure, that was about 80 years, I think. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Maybe it was even 60. And so that's why I think it's going to be a faster paced, of
Mm-hmm.
course, 100 years afterward, because the whole population will be much more flooded with this new type of child or human that's coming online, and the solar plexus mutation and all of that. But I think we're going to see powerful shifts sooner. Maybe it's
Yes.
50 years, maybe it's the 20 years that I'm talking about. But I just find it all very exciting and very positive. And the antithesis to what fear mongering from the shadow of humans coming up with a religious, you know, Armageddon kind of thing. I think it's the
Yeah.
opposite of that,
Yeah.
even though things will, crumble, of course, too.
Of course, and that's part of the process, but I think that
Mhm.
that's very hopeful hearing that from Reflector,
Mm.
to kind of just, like, see the possibility, because I think it is really easy with all things to kind of just see, like, I don't know, like, a negative
Mhm.
application of it, and again, I've heard that so often with the 2027 of people getting really scared,
Mhm.
when we just don't know, but I think the fact that you're sensing all that positivity and all the hope and, feels really exciting.
How have you been noticing it with your students and clients? And actually, yeah, tell us practically what you have going on in your professional world and how people can work with you.
Yeah, I think, well, in terms of noticing, like, I think it's just more and more people, like, coming into the fold of human design.
Yeah,
And more and more
so
people kind
much.
of yeah, it's just crazy. And it's like through people that are just interested in it, through people that want to teach it and learn it. Like, I think that the growing awareness of it feels like, and again, it started, I would say, in 2018, it really skyrocketed in 2020. And now it's just like consistently growing,
Mhm.
but like in ways that I don't think I ever could have anticipated. Like, I think I expected so much skepticism and I've just received so little. And I'm watching one
So
thing
good.
that's really cool to see, and I love bringing human design to teams, is like, I'm just watching like whole teams like get their blueprints and dive into their design. And it's people that are just like have never explored any kind of mystical stuff. But
Mhm.
they're like, this is so cool. So I think that like that's where I'm seeing it the most is just
Yeah.
like the growing awareness and a recognition that this is a really useful tool. Yeah,
So awesome. I just
it's cool.
I've been lately watching and listening to a lot of near death experience stories, and when the near death experiencers talk about, they go to the other side and they just feel that profound, how they're known and how they're loved. And it's like when you get your human design blueprint, which we have the link up here for you to get, and then you see that it's like the universe wrote a user manual about you. It
Totally.
knows you, and
Totally.
there's no mistakes. All of
Mm.
those things, and it's right there. It's right there.
Mhm.
Tell us about your blueprint.
Yeah. So, one of our signature offerings is the blueprint, and it is basically a book all about your unique design. And it walks you through all the most important pieces in a really practical way so you can actually use it to find more flow in your life. And like you said, it's basically an operating manual. And we have a discount code, which is charmed.
Yeah.
But it's just, if you want to kind of dig into all the most important pieces of your unique design, it's really the perfect place.
And what's so great about it is, and I put the code in the comments, and it's just charmed, like charmed life. What's so great about a big compendium like your blueprint is because we do want to take a small piece and contemplate it and experiment with it and see how we attune to it, or it attunes to us, or leave it. Like, definitely anytime we start to get overwhelmed with anything, honestly, we're over intellectualizing it,
Yeah.
and we are not actually in the embodiment process. But because it is so detailed and layered, you can keep going back to it. And even the pieces that, I swear, I go back and look at something really obvious, like my profile, and I feel into it, and there's some new layer of being 5'1" that is so meaningful to me, and showing, and I'm learning and deconditioning and all of that from right now. So I think
Yeah.
it's wonderful. It's a wonderful tool.
It is, and I think that human design is like an awareness tool. I think that like
Mhm.
we often need to keep coming back to it, even if we've been studying it for years, and I think
Yeah.
the blueprint is just meant to be that resource of like, I had somebody share today that like whenever she's feeling a little bit off, she just goes back to like be reminded of who she is and where she's getting taken off track. And
Mhm.
so I think those reminders are so useful.
Mm. I'm going to share with you, if you
Oh
don't
yeah.
mind, about so let's see. I was initiated in my human design experiment in 2019. So we are about four or so years in, and only this year have I been seeing such profound shifts by being able to live more my design. And it's weird for a reflector, because we don't have, like, your authority is this, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's so, but that's okay, because we're also designed for it to be ephemeral. So but what has happened, I mean, I did detox of I was, in some wrong company and wrong community. And so that's one big piece that I diminished. But it took me, it's taken me over a year or so to heal from that, from being in the
Yeah.
wrong place. I started to allow myself to rest more, allow myself to be more creative, and just all of the pieces of it. And what I found is, well, first of all of these body syndromes that I had, meaning like I had pains, different kinds of things that were, thank goodness, no big diseases, but I did have reproductive pain and issues, major issues, digestive major issues. I was frequently having headaches, exhaustion, burnout, not able to work very much, which I'm like, okay, I'm not an energy type.
Right.
But since I started to do things like just take care of myself more, in all of the different ways, I am so, my resiliency as a reflector, even though we're so technically vulnerable because we're so open, we are so resilient
So
too.
resilient. Yeah.
So I can work because of all of the other things I've done, the deconditioning and the taking care of myself and making sure that I sleep enough. As long as I get 8 hours or 10 in bed, but eight, you know what I mean? Like, sleep,
Yeah.
I can work like I don't know, it's not really like a manifesting generator, but I can work a
Yeah.
lot, and I feel fine,
Yes.
and I feel great, and I feel good. So I feel so
Mm.
empowered to be able to continue on my mission. And I couldn't see it until the actual stuff started to, actually come online. So I
Mm.
love, we are vulnerable, but there's the paradox to it that, as a reflector, so strong and so
So strong.
resilient. Yeah.
I think it's such an important
Celebrate that.
reminder because thank you for sharing that because I think
Mhm.
the sensitivity piece is obviously a really integral part of being a reflector, but like at your best, at your most wise, you kind of like are observing the things, but they're moving out of you as quickly as they come in. So
Yes.
you're not gonna
Mhm.
like it's
They're
not
supposed to be, at least.
sticking. Yeah,
They're supposed to
it
be.
exactly. That's the ideal world. That is the resilience is like
Uh-huh.
a healthy level of detachment. So I just love that you're experiencing that because I think we don't often talk about how resilient reflectors can be.
Mhm.
And also, yeah, it's like you magnify the world around you. And so like
Mhm.
at your best, you actually probably have an extraordinary amount of energy.
And exactly.
It's just around kind of knowing when to pause, when to take
Mm,
breaks and making sure that it feels really sustainable for you.
exactly.
But I love hearing that. And also just a reminder for any reflectors listening, it's like you said, the being in the right community, in the right space, around the right people is so
Mhm.
essential because you take it and magnify the energy around. So being really proactive and wise about which energy you're choosing to take in.
And that was probably a big piece of it. And community can mean also, like, a primary relationship, unfortunately.
100%. Yeah.
And so that was for me. And then now I realized there's so much less toxicity in that I'm having to heal from. That's why I had all of that illness. And so my husband is a projector like you, and he's starting to, because he's been in his experiment for a while there. It was just like kind of a little bit bummed because
Mm,
it's like, this is how I am, but the world is really designed for manifesting generators. I guess I'm just not going to be successful or,
mm,
wealthy or anything, or be able to work as much as I want or create as much as I want. But he's turning a corner with that. So did you
wow.
find that too, as you actually sunk into and really your design and your authority and everything, you started to work with it correctly, or it became correct for you, that all of that bitterness kind of started to shift because you found out what your gifts really are?
Totally, and I think allowing a lot more success because of it. I think
Mhm.
that, like,
Mhm.
I was trying so hard to be a generator, and,
Mhm.
like, I was doing fine, but, like, fine, and I
Mhm.
think that, like, I have tapped into levels of, like, if I looked back, I'd be like, "What?" I just, like, I don't think I could have ever imagined that I would go where I go and am where I am, and, like, but being a projector is so much of what brought me into alignment with that, and it
Yeah.
really tapped me into a level of success I didn't realize was possible, but also a way of doing it that was so fun
Mm.
and, like, and so
Mhm.
much more sustainable, and I think so different than what I imagined. So I so hear that, it can be like, "But can I be successful?" But I do believe when we really align with our design, we end up tapping into just alignment in every part of our lives, and that often leads to success we probably couldn't have imagined in many ways.
Yes. Oh, I just love it so much. We're just so loved, we are so held, and we are so known. And that, even though I know human design is not a belief system, or not even kind of technically a spiritual paradigm, technically
Yeah,
speaking, but I mean, it is. It's composed of how we are spiritually aware. But it is, for me, I'm just so, we're not, we are designed. We are designed just like the sacred geometry that we find in nature that is undeniable. And, a scientist can't deny the fact that there's this precise and magical design. And it actually comes all the way out to the details of us, not just
yeah.
something that is like minutia that we
So
couldn't
true.
comprehend.
Yes, totally.
So
Yeah.
you have
Mm.
something coming up soon, right? Do you have a training? Is that what it is?
I do. I have the third round of our live course. I launched it for the first time last year when I was pregnant, and it was amazing. We had, I think, 180 students in that first round, and it was really around teaching people how to share human design and teaching people all the ins and
Yes.
outs of the system. Whether it was, for their own benefit as a reader, or just to integrate into their own practice. So that we'll have a round in the fall, and we have lots of classes if people want to dive in now, but we'll do a live round of the course then.
That's
And
so
that's a
great.
link
So,
to sign up for the wait list. Yeah.
right, I put a link in the live chat to sign up for the wait list, and then if you're listening to the replay, it's in the show notes. And it is so applicable. Like if you are a manager, or something like that, I mean, it is
Yeah.
genuinely, it can be synthesized into, and or if you're a family, you know what I mean? Like there are so many ways that it can be synthesized so authentically into, what what we are doing in our lives. And I think it's
Yeah.
really incredible. So I do really love the way you do make it practical and clear and utilizable. So
Yes.
important. Yeah, not just,
That's
I love to get in the
yeah.
weeds, but it's not
I yeah, and
not a way to teach it.
the weeds are amazing, and
Mhm.
I think but I do feel like a lot of the people that are attracted to the way that I teach it is just like they wanna know how it can be used. They're like, "How
Mhm.
can I use this in my parenting? How can I use this in my
Mhm.
coaching?" Like, so I think that that was something that felt missing in all the courses and trainings that I've taken. And
Yeah.
so it was so excited to finally create a training that was so rooted in, like, how can it be practically applied to every part of our lives?
Mhm. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, this has been incredible. I could talk to you forever. Is there any other last thing you want to share before we
Mm-mm.
wrap up today?
No,
All
just
right.
grateful to you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on, Erin. And remember to grab your blueprint and use the promo code, or the discount code Charmed.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on, everyone. This is Erin Claire Jones. Be sure to find her on Instagram and all of the places. Check the show notes, and just keep expanding and coming into alignment with your design. Thank you for coming on, Erin.
Oh my God, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone, that's what we have for you in this episode. I had the best time, and I just want to remind you to, like, subscribe, share, comment, and click that little bell so you get notifications for when we're going to be doing this live podcast. It's actually going to be on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. I'll have on guests. I'll do some solo episodes. And of course, find me on Instagram and check out those programs that I have linked for you in the show notes. And thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.